talk therapy doesn't really work when you have a 6-week-old experience. So in an incubator, which is a lot of my clients had pre-verbal stuff, and using MDMA, I was able to metabolize what happened at 6 weeks, which is unbelievable. And the drug's not legal, but ketamine's legal, cannabis is legal. You can take pretty much whatever prescription med you want, which doesn't help BPD at all. None of the prescription meds, they treat the symptoms. So MDMA is going to be really important for this particular set of characteristics.
Are you curious about discovering ways of making your life better? Then welcome to my podcast. I'm Bob Nickman, and this is The Exploding Human. Listen in while I talk with all kinds of people in the fields of personal growth, health and healing, alternative therapies, psychology, spirituality, environment, and the future. I'm looking for those answers that make life better for everyone. You'll meet cutting-edge practitioners, doctors, artists, filmmakers, business people, and those who have overcome challenges, the brave, the curious, anyone who is out there helping us humans to explore, expand, and explode.
Hey, welcome to The Exploding Human. My name is Bob Nickman. My guest today is therapist, professor, and author Tamra Sattler, and we're going to be talking about borderline personality disorder, what it is, what it isn't, what are the symptoms of this disorder, and how it is treated. Tamra discusses her own struggles with borderline personality disorder and some of the healing modalities that helped her, including MDMA and mushrooms, done in a clinical setting with a trained therapist. She's going to discuss how that transpired and what the results were. It's a fascinating story. She's worked with many that have borderline personality disorder and had incredible success. Tamra's story is absolutely amazing. I loved talking to her. So let's get right into this. Here she is. This is Tamra Sattler. Good morning, Tamra. It's so great to have you on this podcast, and I've been looking forward to this one as I have been interested in what I've known as borderline personality disorder. I guess there's some other names for it now, but why don't we start with a little background on you? Because I know that you've taught at Naropa Institute and you were in corporate world marketing. I mean, really, it's sort of a circuitous path to what you're doing.
Well, first off, thank you for having this conversation and being interested. Okay, so my background career-wise, family company, then Silicon Valley for about 15 years, business development, advertising, marketing, hardcore business partnerships. And then my mom passed away, and I remember sitting in a little office in San Francisco and like, what's going on? What's the meaning of all this? And then I went and got my master's in counseling psychology. I didn't feel like that was enough. I wanted to go pre-Freud. So I went and got a PhD in East-West psychology at California Institute of Integral Studies, a wonderful university in San Francisco. And then I started the world of psychotherapy. So one-to-one groups, led supervision groups, taught at Naropa, student taught at CIIs, did some research project at University of California, San Francisco, just wrote a book, did an app with some of the Enneagram leaders, anything to get at who is a person, how can they know themselves deeply and experience themselves so that they can actually change. So that is sort of my big quest, helping people end self-created suffering, which is kind of the paramount of the type 4, which we'll get into, which is mostly my book. So it's type 4, and there's a study, each Enneagram type, personality type, at their worst is a personality disorder. So in a study, I think done at Stanford, type 4 at their worst, very identified, goes to BPD. So the book is more on type 4 mostly, and then at the extreme, BPD. However, any of the types can exhibit borderline behaviors. But in my 20-year practice, it's the type 4s that really exhibit the most symptoms.
For people who don't know what that is, and you've probably met somebody or encountered them or had to deal with them in your life, and you're like, what? I don't know what this is. What is it? To explain what it is. I know the thing about it that bothers me the most is when somebody rewrites history to fit their narrative and it's not accurate.
Yeah.
That's the part that I'm like, what? How did you come up with that? So
know,
go ahead and tell people what BPD is, because it's a fascinating thing to me. And then I want to find out how you think it got started in people and where it comes from.
Okay, so the DSM, our Diagnostical Statistical Manual in Psychology, has 9 characteristics. So if you have 7 out of the 9, so I don't always memorize them, but let's just say substance abuse, let's say instability in relationship, let's say not a constellated sense of self, mood swings. Does that give you sort of the flavor? Anger, rage, sort of like an underground rage. And then working with these individuals, it's not just the personality expresses in lots of ways beyond just the DSM, just beyond the actual characteristics. So, lots of self-harm, suicide ideation. I think they take up most of our resources in psychiatric wards. So the best way to think about it, the ego is so identified with itself that it has no space to make a new choice. That's why when you said it's like their narrative, they do not have a choice. And that's why I'm very compassionate about these individuals. If you or I didn't have a choice, I'm sure there's places in our lives where we don't. It can look really dramatic. It's really tiring for families, loved ones, partners.
My understanding of this particular condition, I'll just call it a condition, that most of the people that are suffering from it or have it don't really want to look at it at all. A lot of them don't want to change or can't see that they're different than other people in that way. And so it's a very difficult thing to treat because a lot of the people don't think that it must be, my sense of it is that it's terrifying to look at for somebody that has it. That's what it seems to me. Maybe I'm wrong about that.
No, absolutely. Yeah. If you're so identified with your own ego structure, then it's someone else's fault. Then you have to project. What are you supposed to do?
Right.
However, when these people come into practice, they love learning about Enneagram 4. They feel like such aliens. Finally, it's like, oh my gosh, you're telling me about myself. And so as we work over the years, there is healing.
I love to hear that because it's okay. Let's explain the word Enneagram, Enneagram, because I've never actually heard that word.
Okay.
Until I read your bio.
It's a personality system like Myers-Briggs, like a bunch of others. 9 different ways we see the world. So I get interested in how you see the world. You probably don't know your type. So I'm also an Enneagram type 4. Surprise, surprise. So I see the world in a certain way. And the whole idea is bottom level, we're identified, borderline characteristic, or BPD. Top level, we're enlightened and awake, and all the variants in between. So each type sees the world in a different way. And then you have the levels of development within the type. So I may see the world as glass is half empty. I came into the world most likely that way and had the perfect parents to set up this whole, this whole drama. And so other ways, I'm always what's missing. So I'm pretty good at being a therapist because it's like, what's missing? I like to go really deep. I like things really intense. So other people aren't like that. I don't pay attention to what the weather's like in the morning, where I have my friends saying, did you know that we're having like a tornado today? Okay. Yeah, it's just a different, way of seeing the world. And then the more you heal and grow, the more that you don't see the world from your own narrative, you can open up to the truth of our experience, the world.
In dealing with people that have, actually dealing with anybody, this is a very fascinating thing to me. We assume that other people see the world the same way we do, because that's all you know. And that's where most conflicts come from. I've had situations where somebody's offended by something that I had no intention of offending them, or they feel slighted or something when you behaved in a way that isn't lining up with what they're seeing, and you don't see it at all because it's not with the way you view the world. And that's where almost all conflicts come from, is this. And so to me, the idea of trying to understand and be empathetic to what somebody else is experiencing, and that really requires talking to them and finding out what their worldview is. That takes a lot of time and energy and effort, and you don't have time to do that with everyone. You just can't.
But no, that's a very astute understanding. It's a compassion tool. I use it with couples. I couldn't not have this tool, and it's, I guess, 3,000 years old. So there's real truth to it. It's not just made up. There's about 30 different characteristics and dimensions to each person that is statistically reliable and valid. But yes, you're getting at something really important. If we understand each other, then there's no conflict. I can walk in your shoes, you can walk in mine, or we can walk in each other's.
Well, when you say you deal with couples, that's probably the place that it comes out the most, because you get so involved with the other person and that's where the conflict comes. I can't believe you did that. That means this. Not to me, it doesn't mean that.
I know. But if I understood your childhood more, the way you think, the way you see the world, I might say, oh, no wonder you do it that way. Help me understand.
Probably survival is, the sort of the most primitive kind of thing that we have. Yeah. So if you're growing up in an environment where you need to do certain things to survive, and I'm talking about not just food and all that stuff, but emotionally survive, particularly if there's some sort of trauma or abuse or neglect or abandonment, all that stuff. You have to develop certain ways to survive. And then you come out as an adult and you still have those. Yes. And maybe they don't work as an adult in the world. Maybe they worked when you were a kid to survive, but then they don't work. And I wonder how many people are, with BPD in particular, is there a sort of pattern of things where an identifiable pattern of things that happen to people that have this?
Yes, absolutely. Surprisingly, most of my clients, infant surgeries, which is what I had, divorce parents.
Okay, now I'm fascinated.
I still can't explain that one. Divorced parents, one of the parents left. Mm-hmm. Type 4, many. Okay, interesting.
Type 4 what?
Many are type 4s, which is the particular propensity to see the world in a certain way.
Okay.
What other things? Sensitive, intense, kind of, a lot of people call it, what is the ISP? What is the sensitive type?
I know what you're talking about. It's
I don't know why I can't think of that word.
Yeah, my sister turned me on to this because she's very similar to that. It's highly sensitive people, HSP.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. Sorry.
Which sounds like a made up thing. I mean, actually everything's made up, but there was research done on that.
by, the author Aaron, I think last name Aaron. So HSP. So yes, there's a lot of identifiable experiences in a person's lifetime. And I do believe, along with some of the studies, that you come in this way. People, they can challenge that. That's fine. But my family, my brother is exactly opposite of me, a type 7. It's all about kite surfing and, experience and adventure. Never sat in his feelings. So, but we had the same parents, the same experiences. Our dad left.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what gets me really fascinated. And then Karen Horney did studies with children, and you can already see the little personalities coming out. I think even like 2 or 3, ways that a child plays with the toy, or do they want mom and dad around, or do they need mom, or is it okay if mom comes and goes? So I find this super fascinating.
Is your brother younger or older?
1 year younger. And then I have 2 other siblings too, very different than the little one is most similar to me, but we're all pretty different, and we all had the same, parents. So.
And did you have a childhood surgery?
I did. I had a baby infant surgery at 6 weeks old. My stomach was closed. I was in an incubator. I don't know if we want to get into the wild waters of psychedelic, especially yesterday. The FDA did not accept Mdma for a treatment for PTSD. So it got turned down. But anyway, I was treated. Talk therapy doesn't really work when you have a 6-week-old experience. So in an incubator, which is a lot of my clients had pre-verbal stuff, and using MDMA, I was able to metabolize what happened at 6 weeks, which is unbelievable. And the drug's not legal, but ketamine's legal, cannabis is legal. You can take pretty much whatever prescription med you want, which doesn't help BPD at all. None of the prescription meds, they treat the symptoms. So MDMA is going to be really important for this particular set of characteristics.
Is MDMA was later called ecstasy? Is that the same drug?
Yeah, it was. It was in the rave scene. A little bit different of a makeup. So one of the key things about type 4 and borderline characteristic is not an expansive sense of self. So not in your body. So MDMA, psilocybin, other things, yoga, dance, help you get in your body so you can actually feel yourself. Otherwise, you're floating around somewhere. And then how can you have choice when you're not in your body?
Yeah, my sort of sense of people that are like that, I say they don't have an inner core. It's a very undeveloped inner core. And even that part, when you're
yes.
That resilience, wherever that comes from, that I think that you identify with when you're born, essentially gets really pushed down and almost extinguished.
And
it's a really, it seems terrifying to me to be somebody like that when it's active and being. Now I have a theory.
Yeah,
I'm going to
sure.
say this theory. You might agree or not.
Okay.
About the infant surgery.
Mm-hmm.
Or really any surgery, but certainly in childhood and pre-verbal would make it even more intense, that when the energetic field of a person is, I'm going to just say assaulted, punctured, cut into, that disrupts who the person is in a spiritual and psychic sense, that it's almost that it's very difficult to repair, particularly because it's so intense. It's kind of all you have when you're an infant in particular, because you don't have socialization or any of that stuff yet. So that purity of that field, whatever you want to call it, energetic field, the vibrational field, whatever you want to call it, when that gets This is my own theory now. I'm just coming up with it because
Okay.
I'm trying to feel it as
Uh-huh.
you're talking.
Uh-huh.
When that gets attacked, it's almost like there's scar tissue, psychic scar tissue. Let me put it that way.
100% agree.
Okay.
100%. And then you spend a lifetime in our Western paradigm trying to collect yourself. So you're totally dissociated. You're trying to keep up with, your family culture and, collecting yourself along the way, trying to get back to, like you said, repairing, collecting, experiencing that which got violated. But people don't, in our Western system, we don't really talk about those things.
No, and the other thing that you said, which has come up in this show a number of times, is that the part of the brain that is affected by these things is not accessible with talk therapy. It's a different part of the brain. And so these other modalities, like you're talking about, whether it's yoga or MDMA or let's say EMDR therapies type things and there's some other similar things too that are going on that are able to reach that part of the brain in a way, and I guess the hope is to replace the old narrative with a new one, and that's kind of what I'm assuming your work is. How do I help these people to replace
Nice.
what did happen
and accept? How about replace, accept, digest. Let's digest together. I mean, with MDMA, your limbic system is offline, so it's a little bit easier for the body to metabolize and for the experience to metabolize. But even as a therapist, can we accept, digest, I'm with you, what happened, and let's try to recreate a new relationship. So I have a new client right now. I do not work with borderline personality disorder anymore because I was sued, threatened, and grieved. A family tried to take my license away from a client. So not him, his whole family, his husband. Anyway, I decided to take a person in the last couple of weeks because she came in and said, can you help me get rid of all the things I hate about myself? And I said, no, but we can actually have you, like a lot more of the things that you may not understand. And so it's just like my heart. So even though that's not how I advertise or market anymore, every now and then I get so struck by someone who has had such a shitty life and parents. And they say, basically, can you help me? And I say, yes, I can.
Yeah.
So I'm basically reparenting a grown person. And then how the mechanics work in the head, who the heck really knows? I mean, who the heck really knows? But a relationship, a really positive, loving relationship where someone says, like, look at all the yucky things. And I'm like, I don't see yucky. How about, so something that's kind of the quality of it, but week to week, twice a week, years, and people do heal. They really do. This is not bipolar. This is not it has a chemical component, a neurochemical. This is a personality disorder. It's a split in the psyche.
Wow.
But no therapist. By the way, I don't have one referral in Boulder or Denver, not one.
Why do you think that is?
Because these clients are challenging. You have to hear about, their latest suicide ideation. You have to hear about how, I'm just citing examples, how one of them went to her old boyfriend's fire station and started in the middle of the night and started beeping the horn and all the firemen came out. She was drunk. So you hear about, you have to, your nervous system as a therapist has to handle drama after drama after drama, and you sit there and sit there and sit there. And most therapists can't deal with a suicide client on their hands.
I mean, it makes sense that they wouldn't want to deal with it because it's frightening.
And people's nervous system, my nervous system was pretty frozen, before I started, my deeper healing. So my nervous system was fine. Plus, I understood them because I'm the same personality type. It's not so crazy to think you're going to show up at your ex-boyfriend's fire department. That's not that crazy of a thought to me. Probably thought a lot about that in my youth. I may not have done all those things, but I thought about it. Why wouldn't you?
Yes, I mean it does make sense. It makes sense. I mean, I don't act on some of my thoughts, or most of my thoughts but when I am triggered in some way, let's say I get angry at somebody and I want revenge. I don't just say, "Oh, I'm angry and I want revenge." I come up with a scenario in my head about how I'm going to exact that revenge, and it's very specific.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now, if I did those things, I'd be in jail, and I wouldn't do them. But I'm always fascinated by. I'm laughing because the capability of how far the mind can go. So what stops me from acting on that, but somebody else can't stop themselves, and they go, I'm going to go to the fire station and I'm going to set a fire at the fire station because this guy rejected me.
Exactly. I just want him to know that I'm still here.
Yeah. And it's also a way of discharging that energy. It's like, it must feel so pent up and painful that you have to let it out. And that's the only way that somebody like that would be able to let it out.
And self-harm.
They think that's their only option.
Exactly. And self-harm, when you cut yourself, you get a release of dopamine.
So it does take quite a bit of time is what I'm hearing. And I can imagine that it would. Almost a lifetime, really, of constantly.
I would say less than a lifetime with a really good when I say good therapist, with a loving therapist who really gets this and actually wants to help. I'd say probably about 5 to 10 years therapy. However, my clients that have sought Mdma help from others, it quickens. I terminated 2 clients, or we terminated in about 2 years. So with weekly therapy and then Mdma, see you later. Have a good life. If anything comes up, these are women, late 20s, early 30s. These were diagnosed BPD from our Western community. See you later. Have fun in Costa Rica.
Wow. Now, did you see, is it more prevalent in women than men, or is it pretty equal? It is.
75% women, the last I checked. And then men cluster a little bit more around antisocial, narcissism. They're a little bit more difficult to work with. Women cluster around histrionic, borderline, and a little narcissistic.
Interesting that it's 75 to 25. That's a big difference. And that may be attributable to a certain amount of sensitivity that women seem to have.
I think so.
Innate sensitivity that men we're a little more primitive, basic.
Yeah. I think, and different limbic systems, kind of the good girl culture, all of it kind of plays in to this, type of personality.
Now, a friend of mine has a daughter who's had this diagnosis. And the therapist that I don't know if it was his therapist or her therapist or somebody that was involved, said the best thing you can do is at every chance you get, don't feed the monster. Don't play into the things that, even though it might make it easier at first and temporarily, if someone's acting out, you want to calm them down by going with their narrative because that they're, if you agree with them, they're going to like calm down. But this therapist said, don't do that. If, don't be cruel. Obviously that's not part of it, but to be very, specific about what the way you see things and what they're doing is not okay. That kind of thing.
Yeah, boundaries.
Boundaries, that's the word.
It would be extremely important. So if they don't have full choice, which I don't believe they do, many, then yes, boundaries. So they can feel held, contained, not slighted, not wounded, Yeah. And that's how we treat teenagers, like you have to come home at 10. No, you can't come home at 10, 10, 10. Otherwise you're grounded so that's kind of how it is. So that's how I used to treat a lot of my clients. That's just how it worked, with a lot of love and acceptance, throughout the process.
But you must have had people, when you tell them, the truth in a moment, they must get angry. I don't want to believe that. That's not true. Yes, it is true. That's not, this is what you're saying is off. And what I'm saying is actually the way it is. I would think somebody like that would get very upset, certainly in the beginning.
Yeah. Well, an old supervisor shared with me 2 years for good mother, meaning I need to be the good mother for 2 years before I can start saying, I'm really scared that you just went to the firehouse again drunk. But not before 2 years. I mean, you hold the best container and you say,
okay,
gosh, that sounds scary, but you don't shame people or slight them or go after their wounding. They can't build a constellated self when you're also shaming them. So you're just adding to their own narrative. So yes, I was very careful in order to then start introducing the shame.
Let's talk about MDMA therapy for a second, because I don't know anything about it. I don't know how it works and how it's administered in a clinical setting, how you do that. I mean, it was a recreational thing as far as I knew it. Like you said, at raves and things. I've never done it as far as I know. It may have happened. I don't know. not to my knowledge. Let's put it that way.
So right now it's illegal. So the FDA just rejected MAPS, which is now called Lycos, after many, many years of clinical research trials. But basically, if you find someone out of the country or someone underground, you can be administered MDMA, pure, however you say the full name, and with a guide, with a therapist, not a licensed one because it's illegal. With a guide, you take the substance, a certain amount compared to your body weight, and the journey is what it goes for about 6 hours. Of course, you do intake, make sure someone doesn't have heart issues or other issues that would be counterindicated. And then the 6-hour episode or the 6-hour journey happens. The therapist is there, like the parent that really none of us had. We're like, oh, I see that you're breathing heavy. Is there anything you need? It's like, no, I'm good. Or do you need another pillow? Make sure you drink your water. Or can I hold your feet? So in my case, because I was in an incubator, this is really weird. My guide therapist turned into a nurse, literally. She became a nurse, which is bizarre. The room became like a hospital. I was looking through glass. And then I asked if I could crawl up in her arms. Well, I couldn't really talk because I was a baby. I crawled up in her arms, and she, I'll never forget this woman. I still have deep gratitude. She held me, my size, and stroked my hair and touched me for 3 freaking hours. So I had a corrective experience. So this is what the FDA just rejected. Okay, thank you. That was a game changer. I could finally feel myself.
Wow, I'm getting teary just hearing that story.
It's a game changer. So yeah, so that's the kind of, and then of course the integration session after, and this is not like willy-nilly at a rave. No, I'm in a person's environment, protected. Actually, my dog was there, which was really sweet. I have a trained professional, years and years of experience, even in the indigenous and the medicine world, at my service for just me for 6 hours. There's nothing else. I mean, when do we spend 6 hours of time with anybody?
Yeah.
Surely not in psychotherapy. 50 minutes and then you're out. Bye. So it's huge. And, you don't have to do this all the time. I did 2 MDMA journeys. That was it. Then I moved on to psilocybin, also illegal, decriminalized in Denver. And I don't do any more psychedelic journeys. I may at some point. It's not like I'm doing that. I'm not addicted to journeys. I had maybe 6 total. And the experience as me is remarkable. And the experience with some of my clients, remarkable. And again, I can't do this work because it's illegal.
Yeah.
So they have to find these people. They have to find the underground people. If the underground community gets caught with the substance one, they'll go to jail.
Yeah. It's a controlled substance.
So yeah, that's how it works. So it's pretty exciting times. However, I don't know when it's going to be legal. They really thought this year, but it's going to probably take a while. They had holes in their clinical trials. And I don't think the FDA knows what to do about psychotherapy, bringing that component in. They're probably good with drugs, but, saying yes or no, but how do they deal with the psychotherapeutic element?
You're bringing in something that is crossing into a land that people like at the FDA don't understand. It's probably frightening to them a little bit. It's like, we can't approve of something that's going to make people crazy is how they think on an emotional level. So do you take, is MDMA, how is that administered? Is it a pill of some type, or is it
just swallow it.
And you hallucinate? Would you call it hallucinating, like LSD or something like that?
No, it's a non-hallucinogen. It's called an enthogen. And again, I'm not an expert. I haven't done training in these particular substances. Enthogen. So it's kind of more of an empath medication. Psilocybin gets into the, into the visions. But if you take a low dose, or a microdose, you don't get into the visions. My old clients, no medication for BPD, none. So they might take an anxiety for and a lot of them have anxiety, or a sleep medication, or maybe a depression. But there's no medication that treats a personality disorder.
So this person that was guiding you through this, did they know a lot about your history? Did they know about the childhood surgery, or was that something they did know about it? And did they guide you to go back to that, or that just happened?
No. So wonderful assessment tools these people have. I was really surprised. Like a lot of there's so many trainings in the US right now. I mean, the assessment tool was 8 pages, really deep. And then I had, it's called a bubble. You have 2 sessions before, then the journey, and then 2 after.
Oh, okay. So this person knows you pretty thoroughly.
They know a lot. And then the medicine takes you there, which I know sounds kind of woo-woo. I did not plan to go back to a hospital room. Did not plan to have this woman look like a really cute nurse with a little hat on. And then it took me back, to other places too. The second time I took it, the scene of when my dad left, it took me back there. So yeah, it's pretty cool stuff. And yes, it needs to be, administered correctly by professionals, by trained professionals. This is a sacred medicine to me. This helped me get in my body. I'm not taking it at a club.
Oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Now, what is it derived from?
It was Shulgin, I guess, manufactured it. A man and his wife, I think, in California in like the 60s.
I'm gonna
and
have
then
to look this up. It's fascinating
down.
to me. Yeah,
Yeah,
because I know a little about it, but not. I didn't know about this.
Michael Pollan's book, Introducing All the Substances, he brought on, a lot of the popularity of all this stuff.
Well, I always say I'm on the side of what works. And if something works, you take a look at it.
Let's explore it. I know if it works.
If it works. I mean, what else is there? It works or it doesn't work. And
exactly.
I don't want to be an experiment for something that no one's done yet. But I would want to do something that has proven, what I'm basically saying is, folks, if you're interested in this, do some research and spend the time to find out more and see if this is something that might be right for you. I'm not going to just advocate something for anybody, but if it's known to work and this is something that you identify with, what Tamra's talking about, might be worth exploring.
I was trying to listen to the 9 hours of the FDA meeting yesterday, and I caught a little snippet saying, what about for BPD individuals? And then some of the panel people said, oh, we haven't tested for them. We don't think it would be good for them. Okay. Cool. Well, I know my clients have done really, really, really well with it. It's not easy for the guide. I mean, there might be anger outbursts, tantrums.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would be a little concerned for people's safety if somebody's, highly damaged by things and, rage is one of their things. That would be scary.
Yeah, but if you can handle your own rage, then, most likely you can handle, especially if you have even a male guide, a bigger person with a smaller female. Yeah. I just hope this book.
Oh yeah, we're going to talk about the book here. It's called Too Much Is Not Enough is a great title.
Yeah, look at how teeny it is. So the text is really small. And I swear when I wrote this, it was a lot bigger. But it got sliced, diced, and all kinds of stuff. And I did research. And anyway, I just hope this is a companion. And these days, most of us don't have the attention span anyway. We usually just watch YouTube videos. So maybe it's good that it's smaller. But I really just hope it helps families, individuals, anyone.
Yeah, because it really is a frustrating thing to be around, and I'm sure it's frustrating for the person themselves. Probably frustrating is a light version of what it is for the person themselves. There's hope in some of the things that Tamra has written about in this book. So, folks, if you're in, and if you're just interested in it, which I am, take a read. And also, there is a website that you have if people want to find out more about you. And that is your name, tamrasattler.com.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that you have your podcast and that you're interested in these kinds of things.
Yeah, I found out, I get to find out the coolest stuff that's going on in wellness of all types, body, mind, spirit, the whole thing. And they're all integrated. Well, they should be anyway, if they're not.
Yeah, I took a look at your podcast. And I look forward to listening to more of the speakers.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. Mm-hmm. Keep up the good work. I'm very, very touched and inspired by your courage.
It's kind of past courage. I'm not sure what it is now. Mainly just serving. Just serving. It's kind of just,
That's your next book, From Courage to Service.
Something like that. Yeah.
So, do we have time for you to ask me questions to see what type I am?
Oh, interesting.
Why not? I can be a guinea pig on this show. Why not? I've done it before.
So I'm kind of an expert in type 4, not the other 9. However, let me just ask a couple of my key questions. So what would you say your deadly sin would be? I don't know if you know the Christian deadly sins, but let's say envy, let's say, what are the other deadly sins? Anger, gluttony.
Yeah, the 7 deadly sins you're talking about.
Yeah. What would your, like, do you have a feel for yours? I
Pride
don't
one
know.
of them?
Oh, yes, it is.
I don't have that. No, I do.
Okay. 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 So, and then what do you think? What's your main motivation in life? Is it to help people? Is it to be productive? Is it to be right? Is it to be,
Yeah, that's an interesting one because that's shifted a lot over the years. But when you said, well, to be right used to be probably the top one.
okay. Okay.
But my other sort of thing is to make people laugh.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if that fits in with anything, but
And why would you like to make people laugh?
it just feels good. It feels connected. It feels fun. It's just I've always been that person. I don't it just feels great.
Okay. Most of the comedians are type 6. So there's a level of doubt or doubt, worry at the core of a 6. Skeptical, but super loyal. But
Yeah,
pride is.
I think you found my thing because I was a stand-up comic for 15 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think you might. Can you research Enneagram Type 6? They're such. They're the most predominant type right now in our culture, just because we're in a world of, God only knows what is going to happen.
Okay.
So, yeah, and see if it resonates. See if that your mind might go from, like, if you have to make a decision, this to this. Wait, what about this? Wait, what about this? Wait, and you're probably super loyal. You seem really kind. You like to make people laugh. Woody Allen was a 6. Some of the famous comedians were 6s. Chess players are 6s. Yeah, so I would check out that Enneagram type.
Yeah, that sounds so far. It sounds pretty right. Except I'm pretty good at decision making, but the other ones make a lot of sense.
And then the type 6, the kind of the universal dharma, if you will, your life is courage. So it's interesting that you said courage. So if a 6, to me, courage is like, but if a 6 has courage, it's freaking huge. So that might be your type.
All right. Yeah. Well, that was fast. We got to that really quick.
Yeah. Who knows for sure? And then, of course, we want to be everything. That the whole idea is transcend your types. You can see clearly and you can have a piece of everyone and everything.
Well, I really appreciate your time and your insight and all the wonderful things that you're doing. Folks, get the book. We enjoy learning new things here. And I say we, but it's just me and the audience. I guess it is a we. Have a fantastic day. I really appreciate it.
You too. You too. Thank you, Bob.
Much appreciation for you folks listening to The Exploding Human. The website is theexplodinghuman.com. There's a YouTube channel where you can listen. That is The Exploding Human with Bob Nickman. Once again, I want to thank Tamra Sattler for being on the show. Please check out her book. It's called Too Much and Not Enough. She can also be reached at tamrasattler.com. Have a fantastic day. Thank you.